Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Sewerscreens. Today, we're going to be looking at a movie called The Force from 1982. It's a movie with a lot of unexpected turns and twists. So I hope you're ready. Get your scuba gear on, because we're diving in to the sewers of Hollywood. It opens up on a hiking trip with two random couples. We don't know their name. And it just shows them being murdered. And that's weird. I thought it was like for the audience to know there's a murder out here. But no. Later in the movie, two of the main characters run into a forest ranger that tells them that people are going missing in the forest and they should watch out because they haven't been able to find them. Which to me seems like people are getting murdered when he says that. So the opening scene is kind of less dramatic to me at that point because it was not necessary. Because you could have just put it, because you just had that scene for the two guys to have. They wouldn't need to see the opening. So the opening is not necessary already. It seems like they put it in there so they can have a couple more kills in this movie. There's only 6 kills in total in this movie. If that out that, there'll only be 2 kills and then 2 flashback kills. So I guess they need to pad a little more. Well, the main story starts when we cut away from that murder scene, which was mostly cutaways. Most of the murders in this movie are going to be cutaways. You're not going to really see a lot of stabbing or anything like that. It's mostly just going to be implied, and then you'll see blood on the shirt or something. But anyways, back to the main story. We cut away to Los Angeles, to two guys, Steve and Charlie, in traffic. They're stuck in a traffic jam, and Charlie starts complaining about the traffic jam, and then Steve's like, "Hey, how about we go camping?" Charlie's like, "Yeah, that's a great idea." And then it cuts away again to them at night. The traffic scene took place during the day, but then it cuts away to them at night, where it's just them and their wives. Their wife, Steve's married to Sharon, and then Charlie's married to Teddy. And they're talking to their wives about the camping trip idea, and they're like, "We're so much better at camping than you," which I don't even know why these women are like that. I mean, I personally wouldn't be like that. I'd be like, "Yeah, let's go camping." No, they're like, "We're better than you," and the guy's like, "No, you're not." And he goes like, "Yeah, we are." "No, you're not." Kind of back and forth. So the women decide to leave to go camping by themselves, and the whole purpose of the movie is that the women and guys are in the forest separated. I guess it wouldn't work if they were together, which I don't know why it wouldn't work if they're together, but that's what the director said. So the women leave, and the guys were supposed to show up a week later, but, they couldn't do that. So the women talk the guys in to coming up that night. But I was like, all right, that's fine. That makes sense. There'll still be a delay. There'll be a time delay, all that stuff. But as soon as the women leave to go out to the camping site, the men hop in their vehicle and they're like, "How long are you going to be?" And the guy's like, "I don't know, 5 minutes." And then they hop in their vehicle and leave, right? But that's too quick. Because they're right behind the women. They're literally right behind the women. And the guy's like, so the director's like, "We got to figure out a problem so that the men don't show up too early, so that way the women can get to the campsite before them. And the men show up at night so they get lost." So for some reason in this movie, the guy's truck radiator breaks on him. And they have to stop at a shop, a garage, for no reason. There's no reason for this. And then they had to pay a guy to fix his radiator. I love this guy. Side note, the mechanic is awesome because he has he has bottom teeth, but he has no upper teeth, which is weird. And it makes me think, how did this guy, did he get hit? The mechanic's awesome. Anyways, come back to it. They make it to the parking site where they parked their vehicle. Shannon made a comment about there's not very many vehicles. I don't know why she made that comment. Anyway, they go into the woods. And then you follow them on this whole hiking trip to the woods. Not very interesting. Nothing really happens. Cut back to the guys. They pay the mechanic. They leave. I thought the mechanic was going to have something more. Because he sit there, like the guys pull off and he was like smiling, like dumbasses. I was like, I didn't get it. It doesn't have nothing to do with the movie. It's just something there, I guess, to pad timing and also to put emphasis on why they're late, which they didn't need that. The guy could have just showed up late at night as a surprise or something, like, "Oh, we're going to go in there, we're going to surprise them." But no, the movie said, no, we have to make a convoluted reason why the guy showed up late. Anyway, so the guys finally get to the parking site. They park next to the girl's car. And then they're like packing, right? This is why I said at the beginning of this, the whole beginning is for they have the backpack on. They start heading towards the woods. Then a forest ranger pulls up, has a whole conversation with them, talking about, like, "You guys are heading in there?" And they're like, "Yeah." Whole conversation, the forest ranger goes, "People die a lot in these woods." Out of nowhere. This is terrible for him. I was scared that this forest ranger was the murderer. Like, people go missing, and the guy like, "Oh yeah, what happens to them?" "Well, they fall off a cliff, animal attack, but here recently they've been going missing, and we haven't been able to find the bodies nowhere. We look, hide or search, we look everywhere for them, can't find them." And then the guys are like, "Oh, you wouldn't happen to see our wives, the 2 women?" And he's like, "No, I just got here myself." Then he drives off. So pointless. Like, either have the opening, to me, it's like either have the opening scene showing the murders take place, so the audience knows the murder out there, but the actors are still lost, or have the forest ranger there to alert the men, that he put them on high alert, and then give the audience like, oh, what's about to happen kind of thing. That's how I feel, but I'm not making this movie. Anyways, cut. A lot of nothingness for a long time. And then finally, the women there at night, they finally set up camp. They're at the fire. And then out of nowhere, this movie, out of nowhere, like nowhere, 2 ghost children show up and spy on the 2, yes, ghost children. I don't even know why there's a ghost plot in this fucking movie. I thought it was just going to be a regular slasher. But no, ghost children show up out of nowhere and like start talking about these women. And then they go, oh no, mommy's coming. And they disappear. And then this dead ghost woman, it's just 3 ghosts, right? 3 ghosts out of nowhere pop up, stare at the 2 women and go, have you seen my children? And they're like, no. And it's like, well, if you see my children, send them home. They're in big trouble. And then she disappears. I would have got the fuck out of there after that. I would have left. I would have booked it back to my fucking vehicle after that. I don't give a fuck about this camp trip. I don't give a fuck about those guys. Meet them on the way or something. I would have fucking got the fuck out of there after a ghost shut up. But they stay. They go, that was weird. What are we gonna do? We're gonna go to sleep. Like, we're gonna go to sleep. Anyways, they fall asleep, and then it cuts to a guy in a camp, the murderer, the slasher, he's in a cave. He has a candelabra, I think that's what they're called. The stats with the 3 candles on them. We're just fucking in the cave. And he's in a rocking chair. He's rocking back and forth in a rocking chair, staring at a fire. Then the ghost children disappear. And then the boy, and they're like, where have you been? And the girl goes, we met some people. And he looks at him and he goes, where did you meet these women? And the boy's like, you promised not to tell. And then the girl tells. The girl's a bitch. The little girl's a fucking asshole. She is. And he's like, you promised not to tell. And the girl tells him. So then he goes out. It's really weird. He grabs his, I guess it's a Bowie knife. Yeah, it's a Bowie knife. He grabs his Bowie knife. Then he goes out. And it cuts back to him sleeping. Because after that, they was able to sleep. I wouldn't be able to sleep. If a ghost appeared in front of me, and I was like, what's happening? I would have been like, I think it's bedtime. And then it shows a small little pocket knife with blood on it. Never explained why the pocket knife has blood on it. Never explains where it came from. But the ghost children are holding it. I thought it had something to do with their murder. I mean, maybe it did. No, I have no clue. This movie makes no sense, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, it drops on, I think her name was Shannon. Yeah, Shannon's head. She wakes up. Then children are like, Daddy's coming. You need to hide. And then she starts panicking. Because I would have panicked the first time I saw the ghost woman. I would have been the fuck out of there. But then she starts panicking. And she wakes up her friend. She's like, it was children, ghost children. She's like, it was ghost children. She's not. She delivers her lines like she's reading from cue cards off to the side. So there's a lot of her going, what's going on? What's happening? Where am I? Kind of acting. Everyone else is fine. I mean, everyone else don't get that much, The acting on here are amateur actors. So I don't blame them for the way they're acting. But she wakes up the woman and she's like, there was ghost children. It's like, oh my God, there's ghost children. What's going to happen? Anyways, then she turns around. This part's very important. She's like, we need to hide. And she's like, what are you talking about? And the woman's freaking the fuck out. She goes, we need to hide. She's like, what do you mean? Her friend's like, what do you mean? And then she runs off into she just runs off into the woods, leaving her friend behind. She's like, get the fuck out of my way. Runs off into the woods. The friend stays by the camp. Cuts to her running through the fucking woods. Not knowing what she's doing. Not understanding or anything. She runs through the fucking woods. It cuts back to her friend sitting in the camp. The murderer sneaks up on her. A lot of shadow play in this movie. There's going to be a lot of shadow play and emphasis on thrusting knives, but never really showing the impact. Only showing the blood of where it should have hit. He murders her. And then it cuts back to her through the woods. She finds a rock behind her. Then it cuts back to the guys who are lost. And then they're just lost. And they start talking. It just starts pouring down rain on these guys. And they're panicking. They're like, oh, what do we do? And they found a cave. They go into the cave. And then in the cave, they're like, is that light up ahead? And it is light. They found the murderer's hideout, his cave dwelling. And they walk up to it. And it's the candle off his rocket chair, a fire with a piece of meat in it. And I'm sure we all know where this is going now with that him murdering and then a piece of meat. He's a cannibal. Makes no sense why. The entire movie I was trying to figure out how he became a cannibal. And I guess he just is terrible at fishing or hunting or any basic skill you need to survive in the wild. He comes off as a creep. They go, who lives here? What is this all about? And then he shows up, freaks them out, invites them to dinner, and then Steve's like, no, I think we're good. You think we're good? And Charles like, well, I guess we could, have a bite, stay out of the rain, because they didn't want to go back out in the rain. I would have left. I would have went back out in that fucking rain and left. So he sits down and he cuts him a piece of meat and eats it. And they were asking, how do you end up out here? What's going on? All that kind of stuff. His background, pretty much. Then he jump cuts to a story about his wife having infidelity. I think that's what it's called, where she's just laying, sleeping with a bunch of other men. Right. And then they're like, she was sleeping with a man, locked her children in a closet while she was getting it onto the bed. Same room. She didn't lock him in their closet. She didn't lock him in their room. She locked him in the closet that it's really weird. He was getting on with the guy at. And then it stopped. And then Charles was like, well, what happened? What do you do? I guess it was just bedtime story for Charles. Charles was loving this shit. And he was like, what happened? What did you do? And the guy's like, I did what any guy would do. I didn't do nothing, which is weird. He looked at the meat and he said, y'all can have a piece of a knife. Steve didn't want none. Charles took a bite of it. Then Charles freed from him because I thought he realized what it was. I thought it was Teddy. His wife died. Teddy was dead, murdered. And I thought he's going to realize she had a tattoo or something, and it was blah, blah, blah. No, he just like, oh, this is fucking delicious. He's like, this is delicious. And I was like, oh my God, he's a cannibal now too. Is this like a whole eat human flesh, become a murder? No, I just thought the meat was good. So anyways, they're sitting there talking and the guy just starts having a flashback out of nowhere. Anyway, he had a flashback and it shows the wife was like taunting him in bed. She's like, what are you going to do about it? About her infidelity. So he sits down beside her, grabs her throat and starts choking her. I mean, he just starts choking her. And then I guess he realized that wasn't good enough. So he just bashed her head on a corner of a dresser and she's dead. And then he walks. This is the part that really bugged me. I was saying about this entire movie. He walks. She's dead. He walks to the kitchen and on, one of those magnetic kitchen knife holders. He just has a Bowie knife on it. I don't know why. I don't get it. I guess he cuts with a Bowie knife. I don't know. It's really weird. He has a Bowie knife on it. He just grabs the Bowie knife, heads out to the freaking where the refrigerator is because she was sleeping with the refrigerator repairman. Gets in a fighting stance with the knife, and then the refrigerator repairman throws something. It's a whole fight scene, a whole chase/fight thing occurs. But it was weird because the refrigerator was like, "Well, knock him down," and then run away. And then the dude, the murderer, would just appear in front of him with a different weapon, and then the refrigerator guy would knock him down and run away. That happened twice. He just appeared out of nowhere. Once he was holding a pitchfork, and then another time I forgot what he was holding. Anyways, but he finally gets him. He impales him on an old saw, maybe a wood saw, to make planks with and stuff. He impales him on that, and then he goes off. The children see it all, by the way. Yeah, the children watch him murder this guy. They don't care. And then they bury his wife, and then the children are he's to the children we can't stay here, children. We must leave. And he just walking away. The cuts and the flashback in. This is all real. This is all what happens in the movie, by the way. I might not be tearing it per Berta, but this is my feeling about this movie. Goes back to the guys. The guys start talking. They play. One guy, Charles, says, "I can't sleep," and Steve's like, "Well, I'll stay up." And Charles like, "Why do you stay up?" He's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, I'm not sleepy at all." So Steve's like, "Fine, you can stay up. Wake me up whenever you're ready to go to sleep." He falls asleep, obviously. Movie trope, all the time. Oh, they do it all the time. Anyways. Then the killer wakes him up. He goes, "Hey, wake up. It's time for you to get out of my cave," right? That's fine and dandy. It's all good. But it's just weird. He didn't murder him. I guess because he had the flesh of, I guess because he had his Charles' wife's. I guess he didn't need him. I don't know. I don't get this movie. But anyways, they leave the cave and they start trying to find the woman again. Cuts back to the girl that ran away. Sharon. Cuts back to Sharon who ran away. And then Sharon was hiding underneath a rock. Anyway, she gets out from underneath the rock and she starts walking. She starts walking. And the kids show up. And they're like, "You better hide. Our daddy's coming." Really weird. They're ghosts still, by the way. And then they're like, she's like, "Oh." And then she's like, "Where should I hide?" And then they're pointing at there's some caves and rocks over that way. Anyway, she runs over there. She gets chased by the murderer. The murderer don't catch her. Gets chased by the murderer. She hides away. Then it cuts back to the guys. Finally made it to the girls' campsite. They're not there, obviously. They're dead. So they enact his plan to go searching for him. One goes up the river, one goes down the river. The search. And then somehow the one that went up the river met with the guy who was going down the river. I guess he scroqued back or something. I don't know. Really weird. And then they get back to the camp. Steve finds the spot where Charles' wife was murdered, and he touched the ground. They had this whole scene where he's like, it's sticky though, because it was mud. At that point, it was mud, which makes no sense because it should have been washed away because it was raining the night before, so that shouldn't even been there. It should have been just a pile of, it should have just been mud. It should have been mud with blood. It's really weird. Like, it makes no sense. Like, that's the spot he found, like, because it was raining that before. That's the whole point. They had to go to that guy's cave. So, like, that spot should have just been, it should have all been mud. Right? Not just that one spot should have been the only wet spot in a radius. So I don't know. Plot, right? Hey, if it works, right? Anyways, then it cuts back to the killer sitting on a rock eating a rib. And I was like, holy shit, did he get Shannon? Did he kill Shannon? No, Shannon's still hiding. This is a snack from Teddy, Charles' wife. Guess he had a little snack from her. He leaves. She gets off underneath the rock. She runs through the forest. Cuts back to the guys coming up with a plan. So the plan is Steve knows his way back. So Steve is going to go back, get some help, get the cop or something, and he's going to go back and do all that. And Charles is going to sit there just in case the women come back. He's going to sit there because he don't know the way back. I mean, neither is Steve. He got lost coming here. So they enact that. So Steve goes off, and Shannon gets out from underneath the rock because the murderer's gone. Runs through the forest a little bit, meets the kids. The kids explain what's going on. The kids go, "There's two guys looking for you. One's at the camp, and one's coming." No. I forgot the part where Steve is climbing the rocks. Like, he falls off one rock. He gets his foot stuck in between rocks, which is unbelievable, and breaks his fucking skin bone. Breaks it. I mean, fucking breaks it. It's sticking through the skin. He fucking shattered it. I guess he didn't shatter it. He splintered it. Like, it was bad. Anyways, it cuts back, then it shows back to her, talking to the children, and they go, there's one guy waiting at the camp. And she goes, who's who? And I don't know who's who. They don't know these fucking men. These are fucking ghost children. And they're like, we don't know, obviously. And then they start talking. This is the worst. They shouldn't. In this part of the movie, it shows the worst of her acting. Because when she asks, she always asks, like, what's happening? How are you? How did you die? She asks that question. She goes, how do you die? And then the children are creepy. Like, the children are better actors than the adult in this movie. Because I guess they just said, hey, be creepy children. And the children are like, don't worry, we already are. So the children explain how it happened. They explained that their dad murdered their mom. They came out here. And then she asked what happened to them. And they said, we committed suicide. And I was like, oh my God, how did they commit suicide? They didn't commit suicide. They fell ill and lost the will to live. They died because they got sick. That's not suicide, movie. That's not suicide. That's just, they were two small children out in the woods, sick, and died. I don't know why the movie said it was suicide. It makes no sense to me. They're like, we're so lonely and we're so sad. We just lost the will to live. Yeah, you didn't lose the will to live. You were sick and your dad wasn't giving you any medicine or probably helping you at all. You didn't commit suicide. You died from a disease. It was so bad. I hated that part of the movie. Don't worry, it gets worse. Anyways, we're already almost done with this movie as I'm talking. But anyways, she asked the children to lead her back to the campsite where Charles is. And they go, yeah, we can do that. It takes them forever. I guess she's miles away from the campsite. It comes back to the campsite where Charles is. And then the killer shows up, goes up, sneaks up behind Charles, because Charles is sitting there. It's dark now. It gets this dark. It might have just been good. I'm not sure. The time period in the movie makes no sense. Like, it's dark, light, dark. It's weird. Anyways, he hears something over in the distance, so he goes to check it out, and the killer sneaks up behind him. And then they get no, it's daytime. This is daytime. I'm just going crazy. Anyways, the killer sneaks up behind him, and they get into a huge fight. He knocks the killer's knife out of his hand. He has the advantage. He has all the advantage. He's young. He's fit. He's healthy. These killers been out in the woods eating humans. Like, there's no way Charles should have lost. So anyways, he knocks the fucking knife out of the killer's hands. This is crazy. They go on a chase down towards the river or stream. It's not really a river. It's more of a stream. They get into a fight in it. And then the murderer drowns Charles. Just drowns him, right? It's so freaking weird. Just drowns him. And then he walks away from the body. He doesn't pick the body up. You don't see Charles's body. He just walks away. And the children are like, Daddy got another one. Oh, right. I forgot to tell you. Before that happened, the children disappeared on Shannon because their mom showed up to talk to Charles about the children. Said the same thing. Have you seen my children? No, blah, blah. I'll tell them come home. Yeah. Anyways, the children finally get back to Shannon. And then, after all that murder scene, they finally lead her to, she sneaks up in some bushes and she looks out. This guy has Charles strung up like a deer. And it's just, I guess he was a butcher in his past life, and before he became crazy, I had him strung up like a deer, which makes no sense because he knows how to do this. So how does he not know how to hunt or fish? It makes no sense. Had him strung up like a deer, just chopping pieces off of him. And this killer is just like terrible at his job. Like, like I get it, you know, well nutrition, blah blah blah, but he's bad. He's just sitting there crying, and the children are there, and the guy hears her crying, and he goes up behind her, and he's about ready to fucking stab her. And then the children are like, "Don't do it, Daddy. If you hurt her, we'll never show ourselves to you again." And he's like, "Don't threaten me like that." And then they're like, we promise, or we swear, something like that, that if you hurt her, we will never let you see us again. And he's like, "I wish your mother is here." It's like, why do you killed their mother? You killed their mother, motherfucker. How do you wish she was there? So he leaves her alone. And then he goes off to find Steven. He goes out to find Steven, to kill Steven. He finds him. I guess Shannon, I'm trying to remember. I think Shannon hears it. Anyways, he goes to find Steven. She wanders around, and then he finds Steven. Remember, Steven has a broken leg. I want you to know how bad this murder is. Steven has a broken leg. He's on a crutch. Steven not only manages to defend him off the first time, he manages to knock the fucking knife. One-legged Steven, with his crutch, manages to knock the knife out of the murderer's hands. The murderer stomps on Steven's broken leg. The murderer tries to find his Bowie knife. Can't. So he opts for a stick. Flat, it's not even a pointed stick. And he goes to stab at Steven with this unpointed stick. Misses twice. Steven only has one leg, by the way. Can't emphasize how much this killer sucks at being a killer. Like, not even like competent wise, just like every fighting, everything he's terrible at. He goes to finally kill Steven, and then Shannon shows up, picks up the Bowie knife, which is somehow they were fighting, but somehow the Bowie knife ended up behind Steven. I guess he flung it behind his back somehow with that stick. Anyways, Shannon picks up the Bowie knife, and she runs at the killer, and then like a seizure warning at this point. It didn't show you that like it was bad. Literally flashing lights show Shannon flashing in between the murderer's dead wife until the murderer sees Shannon as his dead wife running towards him with the Bowie knife, and she kills the murderer. She kills her. Then they embrace, they hug, they cry. Shannon tells Steven that their two friends are dead. The children show up. The children have a conversation. The children are like, "We're finally ready to leave. All we've been waiting on is for Daddy." And I'm like, "What do you mean all you've been waiting? You mean you've been waiting on this murderer to not be Ghost anymore?" And they're like, and then Shannon's like, "What about your mom?" And they're like, "Our mom cannot come with us." Never explains why their mom can't come with them. Never explains nothing about these ghost children. Those ghosts are just there with unexplained rules, unexplained logic. They say their mom can't go with them. And then they say bye to Shannon and Steve, fucking children. They disappear. And then I'm like, oh, that must be the end of the movie. No, the end of the movie is their mom shows up to Shannon and Steven again, up on a cliffside somewhere, just like, "Have you seen my children?" And then Shannon goes, "They're not here anymore." And then the ghost mom goes, "I don't believe you." And then Shannon goes, "Well, regardless, they're not here." And then this ghost mom does this awkwardest turn. Like, she was like, "Then I guess I'll be going now," turn, and just vanishes, right? And then roll credits. It's done. It shows, it kind of goes back towards the father's camp. It shows him and his kids sitting by and the murderer father, by the way, the one who doesn't deserve to be with these children, the one who killed these children in half because he made them sick, took them to the fucking woods, murdered their mom, took them to the woods, got them sick, killed them, shows them all around the campfire. The meat's gone. I guess they took the meat away. They disappear, and then the mom's looking sad. The abusive wife is looking sad. And that's how the movie ends. And now, ladies and gentlemen, this is the part of the video where I just talk about the movie and give it my opinion and rate it. The Force was made in 1982 by a man named Don Jones. He was the director and the writer. He was in it. He was the Force Ranger, the creepy Force Ranger that I thought was the murderer. No, that was the Don Jones. That was the director. There's not much on it. I would talk about behind the scenes and stuff at this part, but there's not very much on the Force. I've looked, I've searched, I've hunted, but there's not very much on it. All I can say is that it was Don Jones' passion project, and one of the actors did an interview and said that he put his house on the line and lost it to make this movie. And also in the interview, the actor said that before he paid off his house, he paid it and made sure everybody, when the movie was released and he got the income, he got the money from the movie, he said he made sure every actor, everybody who worked on the film was paid before he tried to pay off his house. And I think that's pretty cool. I mean, it makes me feel like he's a stand-up guy. And he directed another movie called Schoolgirls in Chains. I might look at that. I don't know yet. But other than that, That's all I can really find about this movie. Now it comes to the part where I rate it. And down here in the sewers of Hollywood, there's not much I can rate with other than rats. I know it's a little weird, but hey, rats are what I'm going to rate this movie with. Hopefully if I get a high enough rating, these rats will carry it back to the surface. You never know. But for this one, it's not getting a high rating. I've been thinking about it, and I think I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10 rats. A fun movie at points, very confusing, a lot of points in the movie that didn't, like the ghost children didn't need to be there. Him being a cannibal kind of didn't need to be there. You know, stuff like that kind of didn't need to be in the movie. You know, he could have cut all that out and still made a pretty decent slasher movie. But when you pile that stuff on to the slasher part, it kind of just overwhelms the movie, and it makes no sense, honestly. Like, the ghost children, the ghost woman, the cannibalism, none of that's explained. None of that is really put out there for the audience to understand. It just seems like it was thrown in to pad the movie a little bit more. The slasher part, it's fun, but other than that, the rest of the movie is kind of dull. It's not a yearly watch kind of movie, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It will stick with you, though. If you want to watch it, you can watch it. It will stick with you. It still sticks with me because it's just a fascinating movie of a guy who had a plan but didn't know how to put it all together, is what it feels like to me. But I would like to give all credits to John Jones. He directed it. I'm assuming he shot it because he's a camera guy. He said he was a camera guy in his biography. So I'm assuming he shot most of it, and it's shot beautifully. The shots are beautiful. I just wish there was more put into the story of it. And that's how I feel about The Forest, 1982. And like I said, my rating for it is 3 rats. I wish I could give it higher, but I can't. Thank y'all for watching, and I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Please come back and watch some more because we have plenty of movies down here in the sewers of Hollywood. Thank you very much.